This is a violent crime against a small child that is hard to hear.
She had been and strangled by a strip of cloth taken from her own clothes. Now, the search for Candy's body turned into a search for her killer.
Imagine a forest, silent and still, harboring a mystery for 6 decades. In 1959, a 9-year-old girl named Candy vanished into its depths. Years turned to decades and the mystery remained unsolved, gripping a community in a silent thrall. What happened to Candy in that forest? The truth, emerging 60 years later, unveils a tale of innocence lost and the relentless pursuit of closure. The disappearance. March 6, 1959, was an ordinary Friday for 9-year-old Candy Rogers. Returning from school to her home in Spokane, Washington, she anticipated a fun-filled weekend with her friends. But first, she had a mission: selling chocolates for her group, the Bluebirds, to raise funds for their activities. Little did she know that this seemingly mundane task would lead to her mysterious disappearance. Candy lived with her mother, Elaine, a devoted parent who cherished her only child. That afternoon, Candy, equipped with 7 boxes of campfire chocolates, sought her mother's permission to go out and sell them. Elaine, always cautious, reminded Candy of the golden rule: not to stay out late and return before dark. Around 4 p.m., Candy set out on her adventure. Her neighborhood, typically safe and friendly, buzzed with other girls her age, also selling sweets door to door. Candy joined them, blending into a tableau of innocent childhood endeavors. The clock ticked past 5:30 p.m., and Elaine's worry deepened with every passing minute. It was unlike Candy to stay out so late. By 6 p.m., panic had set in. Elaine, now frantic, alerted Candy's grandfather, and soon, friends, neighbors, and relatives joined the search. The search party, initially small, expanded as concern for Candy grew. They started by questioning neighbors. Some had seen her walking around earlier, her chocolate boxes in tow, but no one knew where she might be now. As darkness fell, the search became more challenging. Despite the dim light, the searchers, led by Candy's grandfather Milton, remained hopeful. Soon, the local police and sheriff's deputies joined in, turning the search into a community-wide effort. Around 9 p.m., a breakthrough seemed to come when some of the campfire chocolate boxes were found. 6 out of the 7 boxes Candy had taken with her were discovered that night, but Candy herself was nowhere to be found. The night's search proved futile, leaving Elaine in a state of despair. She spent a sleepless night, tormented by thoughts of what could have happened to her daughter. The uncertainty was unbearable, and she prayed silently for Candy's safe return. The community was abuzz with theories and speculation. Had Candy had an accident? Was she attacked by an animal? Or worse, by a person? These questions haunted everyone, but no answers were forthcoming. The following day, the search resumed with even greater urgency. Volunteers from across Spokane joined the effort, and the search area widened. The local police utilized all available resources, including mounted patrols and vehicles, to scour the forests and main roads. A helicopter from the Air Force joined the search, expanding the scope from the skies. Tragically, the helicopter involved in the search struck a high-tension wire and crashed into the Spokane River, killing 3 of the 5 men on board. The community mourned this unexpected loss, but remained undeterred in their mission to find Candy. Days turned into weeks, and still there was no sign of Candy. Elaine's health and spirit deteriorated as the days passed. The lack of information about her daughter's whereabouts was slowly consuming her. Then, on March 22, 1959, 16 days after Candy's disappearance, a grim discovery was made. 2 hunters, Roard Lawrence and Richard Ing, were hunting marmots in a wooded area about 11 kilometers from Candy's home. In a small clearing, they stumbled upon a pair of small, blue, suede shoes. The craftsmanship and size indicated they belonged to a child. Perplexed and concerned, Lawrence and Ing took the shoes and reported their find to the police. The shoes were soon identified as belonging to Candy. This led the police to focus their search on the area where the shoes were found. As night fell, the search was postponed until the following day. The next morning, a large team of officers and volunteers arrived at the clearing. They began an exhaustive search of the area. Initially, they found nothing. But then, one of the officers noticed a small mound made of bushes and pine leaves. The community's response and search efforts. In the wake of Candy Rogers' disappearance, the community of Spokane reacted with a mix of shock, fear, and solidarity. Residents, previously living their lives with a sense of security and trust, suddenly found themselves in the midst of a parent's worst nightmare. The disappearance of a child in their midst was not just news, it was a call to action that galvanized the entire community. As word of Candy's disappearance spread, the neighborhood transformed. Doors previously left unlocked were now secured. Parents kept a closer eye on their children, their usual routines disrupted by a palpable sense of dread. Candy's classmates at Holmes Elementary School grappled with the sudden absence of their friend. Teachers and students alike struggled to focus, their thoughts occupied with Candy's well-being. The local authorities, recognizing the severity of the situation, ramped up their efforts. The Spokane Police Department, along with the county sheriff's office, mobilized an extensive search operation. They combed the neighborhood, knocking on doors and questioning residents. The local media played a crucial role, broadcasting Candy's description and last known whereabouts, urging anyone with information to come forward. The search extended beyond the neighborhood. Volunteers from all walks of life joined the police in scouring the nearby forests and fields. They formed search parties, methodically covering ground, calling out for Candy, hoping for any sign of her. Local businesses contributed to the effort, some offering resources, while others provided food and drinks to the volunteers. As days passed with no sign of Candy, the community's anxiety deepened. The search parties expanded their radius, moving into more remote and rugged terrain. The forests around Spokane, usually a place of recreation and tranquility, now echoed with the calls of searchers and the drone of the helicopter overhead. The Air Force's involvement, though initially a beacon of hope, turned tragic with the helicopter crash. This incident, while deepening the community's sorrow, also highlighted the lengths to which people were willing to go to find Candy. The fallen men were hailed as heroes, their sacrifice a testament to the community's resolve. Churches in Spokane opened their doors for vigils and prayer services. People of all faiths gathered, lighting candles and praying for Candy's safe return. These gatherings also served as support networks, where residents shared their fears and comforted one another. The sense of community solidarity was palpable, with people bound together by a shared mission and mutual concern. As the search continued, the impact on Candy's family was profound. Elaine, already a shadow of her former self, was consumed by grief and worry. Candy's grandfather, a figure of strength in the family, coordinated with the authorities, clinging to hope despite the odds. The emotional toll on the family was immense, with each passing day bringing more uncertainty and pain. The search for Candy Rogers became a defining moment for Spokane. It was no longer just a local news story, but a heart-wrenching saga that captured the attention of the nation. Letters and messages of support poured in from across the country, offering condolences and encouragement. This national attention also brought more resources and expertise to aid in the search. In the midst of the turmoil, the community demonstrated remarkable resilience and compassion. Neighbors looked after each other, and strangers became allies. The search for Candy brought out the best in people, showcasing a community united in the face of adversity. Despite the extensive efforts, the mystery of Candy's disappearance remained unsolved. The exhaustive searches, the interviews, and the investigation yielded no concrete leads. The community was left grappling with unanswered questions and a sense of vulnerability. The innocence of a small town was lost, and in its place, a new awareness and vigilance took root. The tragic discovery. The discovery of Candy Rogers' remains, 16 days after her disappearance, brought a tragic turn to an already heart-wrenching story. The news rippled through Spokane, turning the communal hope of finding Candy alive into a collective mourning. The forest, once a symbol of natural beauty and adventure, had now become the backdrop for a dark and painful chapter in the town's history. The fateful discovery was made by two hunters, Roard Lawrence and Richard Ing. While hunting marmots in a wooded area approximately 11 kilometers from Candy's home, they stumbled upon a pair of small blue suede shoes in a clearing. These shoes, seemingly out of place in the rugged wilderness, piqued their curiosity and concern. After a brief contemplation, and with no one coming forward to claim them, the hunters decided to bring the shoes to the local authorities. Upon examining the shoes, the police swiftly identified them as belonging to Candy. This pivotal finding refocused the search efforts to the area where the shoes were discovered. However, as darkness had already set in, the search teams decided to wait until dawn to resume their efforts. The next day, a Sunday, saw a renewed sense of urgency among the search teams. As the first light of dawn broke, a large group of officers and volunteers gathered at the clearing. They commenced a meticulous search of the surrounding area, each participant holding on to a sliver of hope, yet bracing for the worst. It wasn't long before a police officer, sifting through a small mound made of bushes and pine leaves, made a heart-stopping discovery. Beneath the pile lay the decomposing body of a child. The clothes matched those described as worn by Candy on the day of her disappearance. The state of the body suggested a violent end. Her feet were bound, and a strip of cloth was wrapped around her neck. The shock of this discovery sent waves of despair through the search party. The realization that the vibrant young Candy had met such a grim fate was devastating. The site was immediately cordoned off, and an investigation team was called in to process the scene. News of the discovery spread quickly, and the town of Spokane was plunged into a state of collective grief. The Rogers family, who had held on to hope against the odds, was now faced with the unbearable reality of their loss. Elaine, already frail from the ordeal of the search, was shattered by the news. She was rendered unconscious by the overwhelming grief and had to be sedated. Candy's classmates and teachers at Holmes Elementary School were equally heartbroken. The school became a place of mourning, with students and staff struggling to come to terms with the cruel reality. The innocence of childhood was abruptly disrupted, replaced by a harsh lesson on the fragility of life. The community, which had come together in hope and solidarity, now united in sorrow. The local churches, which had been places of prayer for Candy's safe return, became sanctuaries for those grieving. Candlelight vigils were held, and tributes poured in, as the town tried to find solace in shared mourning. The local media, which had been instrumental in spreading the word about Candy's disappearance, now covered the tragic end of her story. Newspapers and television stations reported on the discovery, offering condolences and reflecting the community's grief. As the initial shock subsided, questions began to arise. Who was responsible for Candy's death? What had happened in the hours after she left her home to sell chocolates? The need for answers and justice became a new rallying point for the community. People demanded action, and the local authorities vowed to leave no stone unturned in their pursuit of the perpetrator. The investigation into Candy's death was now a murder investigation. The police, along with forensic experts, began the meticulous process of gathering evidence from the crime scene. An autopsy was conducted, which confirmed the worst fears. Candy had been the victim of a violent crime. The town of Spokane, still reeling from the loss, began the process of honoring Candy's memory. Memorial services were held, and tributes were laid at the site where her body was found. Candy's school organized events to celebrate her life, helping students and teachers cope with the tragedy, the investigation, and dead ends. With the tragic discovery of Candy Rogers' body, the focus in Spokane shifted from a search and rescue mission to a murder investigation. The Spokane Police Department, spearheading the inquiry, faced the daunting task of piecing together the events that led to Candy's untimely death. The community, still reeling from the shock, looked to the authorities for answers. The investigation commenced with the basics: gathering evidence from the scene, conducting an autopsy, and interviewing potential witnesses. The autopsy revealed the grim details of Candy's demise. She had been violently assaulted and strangled. This revelation added a new layer of horror to the case and fueled a growing demand for justice in the community. Investigators started by retracing Candy's steps on the day of her disappearance. They interviewed residents who had seen her selling chocolates, classmates, friends, and anyone who might have crossed paths with her that day. Despite these efforts, no substantial leads emerged. It was as if Candy had vanished into thin air, only to reappear in the worst possible manner. The police explored various theories. Was it a random act of violence? Did Candy encounter a stranger with malicious intent? Or was the perpetrator someone from within the community? Every possibility was considered, every lead pursued, but each path seemed to lead to a dead end. One promising lead involved a serial killer who was active in the area at the time. This suspect, known for a peculiar penchant for grape gum, became a prime suspect due to a strange purple stain, smelling faintly of grapes, found on Candy's clothing. However, when questioned, the suspect denied any involvement. Without concrete evidence linking him to the crime, the police could not make an arrest, and this lead eventually fizzled out. As weeks turned into months and months into years, the case grew cold. The Spokane Police Department continued to allocate resources to the investigation, but with no new evidence or leads, public interest waned. Candy's family, especially her mother Elaine, clung to the hope that the killer would be found and brought to justice. However, as time passed without any significant breakthroughs, this hope began to fade. The case of Candy Rogers became one of the most notorious unsolved mysteries in Spokane's history. It was a story often revisited by local media, a haunting reminder of a crime that had shaken the community to its core. The lack of closure not only tormented Candy's family, but also left a lasting impact on the residents of Spokane. Parents hugged their children a little tighter, and an undercurrent of fear persisted in the neighborhood. Over the years, the police revisited the case several times. Advances in forensic science provided new avenues to explore, yet each attempt to revive the investigation met with disappointment. The DNA technology of the time was not advanced enough to yield any new insights from the evidence collected. The case of Candy Rogers remained a painful open wound for the community. It was a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the reality that sometimes justice remains elusive. The mystery of Candy's death became a part of Spokane's identity, a tragic legend passed down through generations. Despite the passage of time, Candy was never forgotten. Her story continued to resonate with the people of Spokane. It served as a catalyst for change in how missing person cases were handled and prompted parents to have difficult conversations with their children about safety. The police, for their part, never officially closed the case. It remained active, with the file periodically reviewed in the hope that new technology or information would shed light on the unsolved mystery. Candy's picture continued to hang on the walls of the police department, a silent testament to a case that had deeply affected the community and the officers involved. Breakthroughs and modern technology. The case of Candy Rogers, which had languished for decades as one of Spokane's most haunting mysteries, entered a new era with the advent of modern forensic technology. It was a journey from despair to renewed hope, driven by the relentless progress of science and the unwavering determination of investigators. By the early 2000s, advancements in DNA technology had revolutionized criminal investigations. This new scientific frontier offered a glimmer of hope in cold cases, and the Spokane Police Department decided to revisit Candy's case with these new tools at their disposal. The evidence preserved from the crime scene, which had been stored away for years, now held the potential key to unlocking the mystery. The first significant breakthrough came when forensic experts re-examined Candy's clothing. Using advanced DNA analysis techniques, which were not available at the time of the initial investigation, they were able to isolate and extract a DNA profile. This was a monumental step forward. For the first time since the investigation began, there was a tangible piece of evidence that could potentially lead to the killer. The extracted DNA profile was entered into national criminal databases, but it returned no immediate matches. This result, while disappointing, did not deter the investigators. They knew that the world of DNA technology was rapidly evolving and that it was only a matter of time before new opportunities emerged. Meanwhile, public interest in the case was reignited. The breakthrough in the investigation brought back memories of Candy's disappearance and stirred emotions in the Spokane community. Media coverage increased, with people following every development in the hope that justice for Candy was finally within reach. As the years passed, further advancements in forensic science opened up new avenues for investigation. One such advancement was genealogical DNA profiling, a technique that combined genetic analysis with traditional genealogy to identify potential relatives of unknown individuals. This method had seen success in solving other cold cases, and in 2017, the Spokane Police Department decided to apply it to Candy's case. A specialized forensic genealogist was brought in to analyze the DNA profile extracted from Candy's clothing. The genealogist used this profile to search through public genealogy databases, looking for potential familial matches. This painstaking process involved constructing family trees and tracing lineages in the hope of narrowing down possible suspects. This approach marked a significant shift in the investigation. Instead of waiting for a direct match to come through criminal databases, investigators were now actively seeking connections through the vast web of genetic ancestry. It was a complex and time-consuming process, but it offered a beacon of hope in a case that had long been shrouded in darkness. After months of meticulous research, the genealogist identified a family with potential ties to the DNA profile. This family had lived in the Spokane area around the time of Candy's disappearance. The discovery was a breakthrough, but it also presented a new set of challenges. The family tree had numerous branches, and each member needed to be investigated to establish any connection to the case. The investigative team painstakingly worked through this video, cross-referencing each family member's background, whereabouts, and potential motives. This process was like assembling a complex puzzle, with each piece bringing them closer to solving a decades-old mystery. In the midst of this intensive investigation, a crucial piece of evidence emerged. One of the family members, now deceased, had a history that raised red flags. This individual, who had lived in close proximity to Candy's neighborhood at the time of her disappearance, had a troubled past marked by instances of violence. The focus of the investigation narrowed to this individual. Although he was no longer alive, modern forensic science provided a way to connect him to the crime. Investigators obtained permission to exhume his body to collect DNA samples. This decision was not made lightly, as it involved a delicate balance of ethical considerations and the pursuit of justice. The exhumation was carried out, and DNA samples were collected from the remains. These samples were then compared to the DNA profile extracted from Candy's clothing. The results were conclusive. The DNA from the remains matched the profile on Candy's clothing, providing the evidence needed to close a chapter in the case that had haunted Spokane for so long. Unearthing the truth, closure, and reflections. The resolution of Candy Rogers' case, decades after her tragic end, brought both closure and a time for reflection in Spokane. The breakthrough in identifying her killer did not erase the pain of the past, but it offered a resolution to a story that had long cast a shadow over the community. For Elaine Rogers, Candy's mother, the confirmation of the killer brought a bittersweet end to her long wait for answers. Although she had passed away before the case was solved, those who knew her believed that she would have found some solace in the knowledge that her daughter's killer had been identified. The resolution provided a sense of justice, albeit delayed, for a mother who had endured unimaginable loss. The Spokane community, which had carried the burden of this mystery for over 60 years, also found a sense of closure. The case had been a part of the town's collective consciousness, a story that was revisited time and again in local lore. The resolution allowed the community to finally turn a page, though the memory of Candy and the lessons learned from her case would continue to resonate. For the Spokane Police Department, solving Candy's case was a significant achievement. It demonstrated the department's commitment to pursuing justice, no matter how much time had passed. The detectives who worked on the case, both past and present, felt a sense of fulfillment in bringing closure to one of the city's most notorious cases. The resolution also served as a reminder of the importance of preserving evidence and the potential of modern forensic science to solve even the coldest of cases. The breakthrough in Candy's case had a broader impact beyond Spokane. It became a beacon of hope for other unsolved cases, demonstrating that advancements in technology and persistent investigative work could bring answers years after a crime. The success in using genealogical DNA profiling in this case was noted by law enforcement agencies nationwide, inspiring similar approaches in other cold cases. However, the resolution of the case also prompted a time of reflection. It raised questions about the advancements in forensic technology and the ethical considerations surrounding their use, such as the exhumation of a suspect's body for DNA testing. It highlighted the challenges in balancing the pursuit of justice with respecting the privacy and rights of individuals, both living and deceased. The story of Candy Rogers also led to a renewed focus on child safety and the importance of community vigilance. Her disappearance and the subsequent investigation had a profound impact on how parents in Spokane and beyond talked to their children about safety. Schools and community groups used Candy's story as a lesson in caution, emphasizing the importance of awareness and communication in ensuring the safety of children. In the aftermath of the case's resolution, there were memorials and tributes to Candy. The community sought to honor her memory in various ways, from planting trees to organizing events in her name. These acts of remembrance served not only as a tribute to a life cut short, but also as a means for the community to process their collective grief and find healing.